So when a car's hood flies up in the movies, it's an old bit, but it never gets too old. Think about that scene right here from Tommy Boy, right?
Very funny. But in real life, well, one of our viewers wants to make sure she's safe, and it sounds like her concern is justified.
And Peter Fink is here to take on 3 of your car questions.
Yeah,
He owns
nice
Certified
to see you,
Transmission.
Peter.
Always fun to be here, but I do like that movie,
remember
Tommy.
that?
Oh,
That was a
how
good
could you? I mean, it's a great movie,
Yeah.
you know. So definitely, you know. So
Yeah. All right, let's get to the first question. Michaela writes, I recently purchased a used car. It's in pretty good shape, but there is an issue I'm having with my blinkers. They will stop working out of nowhere when I'm driving, and it's quite dangerous because not a lot of people will notice my hand signals. They will also start clicking really fast, but they're not actually on. If you could help me figure out what could be the problem, I would really appreciate it.
that's true. On cars, people don't look for hand signals anymore. So turn signals and brake lights are two of the most important, is to let people know what's going on with it. Okay. Unfortunately, on this particular one, she didn't tell me the year, make, and model of the car. Okay. But in general, we probably got a pretty good idea of what's going on. Anytime you have an electrical problem, you want to check all the fuses. Okay. Now, there's two sets of fuse boxes on cars anymore. There's one under the hood and one under the dash. You want to check all them. If a fuse is bad, it can cross bleed over and cause all kinds of funny problems. The next thing I always tell everybody is go clean the battery cables, a positive and the negative on the battery cable, okay? And even if you're not having an electrical problem, it's still a great idea. The other one is body grounds, that little cable that goes from over to the fender from the battery. Unloosen that and tighten it back up, make sure it's good and tight and clean, can cause all kinds of problems. Now, turn signals go through the brake switch and usually a computer on the newer cars, okay? If you have a bulb that's burned out, can cause it to be funny, so turn your turn signal on with the key on and see if all the lights light up like they're supposed to, okay? Next, if you use the wrong kind of bulb, if you use a cheap bulb, if you buy one for $1 anymore, it doesn't work. You got to get the right bulbs. These computers are very sensitive and they monitor the voltage, okay? And if the voltage is wrong, it will cause all kinds of problems. Or if you got aftermarket LED lights, that's kind of a cool thing to do. That causes all kinds of problems, so get them off of the car if the car wasn't made for it, okay? And then lastly, probably what this is the flasher's probably going bad, okay?
Right.
And there's a flasher in the fuse box. It's a little round thing. You get a new one from the parts store. Try that. If it isn't that, it's got to go to the shop.
It's got to go to the
okay?
shop.
Real quick before we move on, I've heard that cleaning your cable, the battery cables, if you pour Coke on it, does that work?
It will. If there's codes in it and you unhook the battery, it will clear the codes, okay, and stuff usually. Especially if you touch the positive and the negative together, it'll take the capacitors down and discharge them, okay, and stuff. So.
Okay, glad.
But that
Crack a can
loses
of
your
Coke.
memory on your radio
sure,
and
yeah.
your
You
seat
gotta
and
reprogram all that
everything.
stuff.
Oh yeah, you got to reprogram
I
everything.
wasn't smart enough to do it well the first time. I don't have to go through it again. All right, Joe's up next, and he wonders, how long should a car battery last, and are there any signs it's aging before it dies?
Great question, okay. Obviously, a lot of people associate bad batteries in the wintertime, okay, but summer is actually as hard on a battery, if not harder, than the wintertime, because as it gets so hot under the hood, it bakes the batteries actually, okay. Depending upon the quality of the battery you bought, they will last 3, 4, or 5 years, okay, usually is about the average. And yes, they have great tests this day, an age at the, you can go to like an AutoZone or something, they'll test your battery, and most shops can test them, and they can tell you your battery's at 80%, 75%, 60%. You don't want to, personally, I don't want to wait till the thing don't start, okay? The other thing is, if you got a pretty good ear, you can hear it crank a little slow. The wife has a second car that she drives, and she didn't drive it for a couple months, and I started it the other day, and I said, man, it don't sound right. And that car was sophisticated enough that it could say the battery was weak on it, okay, and stuff, all right, and stuff, and the light came on and said that, okay? And so cars are getting more sophisticated. Yeah, that's it.
I'll look it out for you.
And you know, that they can tell if it's a bad battery, but a lot of cars don't.
Yeah.
So, but they can be tested. I recommend replace them usually 4 or 5 years, because man, I don't like to jump start stuff and have that trouble. Okay.
And there's never a good time for it.
It's always the worst time. Okay.
Right.
So
Thanks a lot. Next one, Chelsea. She says the latch to the hood on my 05 CRV seems loose. Even when the hood is well latched, it rattles and bumps. When I get over 60 miles per hour, the latch seems to be loose side to side, not vertically the way it would open. So I don't worry too much about it flying open. Is there anything I can do to make it a little more secure?
Okay, great question on that. That's a body question, okay, but actually I think I probably know the answer to that one, okay. Make sure the latch is tight, and I mean it uses bolts, okay, or whatever, but I'm sure that's probably what it is. Second, make sure when you pull that hood release that pull up on the hood and make sure that secondary latch, all hoods this day and age have 2 latches, that way just in case the one plies open, that the hood don't come up and slap your windshield when you're going down the road. Not
Tommy
a good
boy.
thing. Yeah, exactly. Okay, that was appropriate for that. And then what's causing it to rattle is not the latch that's loose, but you got little rubber grommets on each side out by the fenders that are adjustable up and down, and that's what actually stabilizes the hood, that it don't rattle. They're probably adjusted down or the rubbers are wore out, okay? Car might have been in an accident or something and it wasn't adjusted right, so they need to be adjusted back up or new rubbers on the top of it, okay? And so that will take care of that hood rattling, okay?
Great advice for Chelsea there. And if you have any questions for Peter, we'll let you know where to send those here in a minute. First, where to find him and the rest of his team. 5 locations in the Omaha area, online at certifiedtransmission.com. And if you think you're having a transmission issue, like my husband is right now, and he says, when you go to work, would you talk to Peter for me? And I said, why don't you just take your car in? It's free to have it looked at. And not just because I know Peter, but that's the case for all of you. Certified Transmission is also active on Facebook. Peter, thank you.
Thanks,
Really
Mark.
great to see
All
you.
good stuff. Yeah.
Yep,
And our
thank
thanks
you.
to Jody for filling in on that last visit. He always does a nice
I was
job.
out of town, so
Yeah.
once in a while, either if me or Amanda can't
Yeah.
be here, then we got to have one
Send
of the other
Jody
guys.
Yeah,
in.
he did a great job.
Does a nice job.
Thanks,
Likable guy. All right, you can email value at, that's not true.
No, you can't. It's not
Talkback at omahamorningblend.com. Talkback at omahamorningblend.com. Otherwise, you're sending questions to Saul's, but we'll still get those wires uncrossed for you. You could also click on the Certified Transmission button on our homepage or leave questions on our Facebook wall.